Deep within the rugged mountains of 13th century Japan, the fortress city of Kamakura holds the world in a grip of iron and frost. In this ancient age of the samurai, the soft luxury of cotton is a dream yet to be born, and survival is a matter of spirit as much as flesh. You are a solitary monk in a nameless temple, a silent dweller among Japanese cedars and frozen moss. This is a chronicle of the long nights, the crackle of a mountain fire, and the profound stillness of a soul seeking satori. Listen to the rhythm of the wind against the shoji doors and the heavy weight of the winter silence. We journey now into the heart of the great white void, where every breath is a meditation and every snowflake is a fragment of the infinite. Listen to the wind. It travels across the gray expanse of the Sagami Bay on the eastern coast of Japan, carrying the scent of salt and the heavy promise of ice. In this year of 1280, the town of Kamakura is a fortress of shadow and stone. You stand upon the weathered wooden veranda of a mountain temple, watching the light fade behind the jagged silhouettes of the ancient Japanese cedars. The air is thinning. Every breath you draw is a sharp, crystalline reminder that the season of endurance has arrived. Your body is shielded only by a robe of coarse linen. In this medieval age, the gentle warmth of cotton is a luxury of the future, a soft dream that has not yet reached these shores. Cotton is a treasure from distant lands, reserved for the high lords and the golden halls of the shogun. For a monk, there is only the honest, biting reality of the flax fiber. The linen is heavy, yet it is porous. It does not cling to your skin. Instead, it allows the mountain air to ghost across your limbs, stealing the heat from your blood with every passing gust. You do not fight the cold. To fight is to create tension, and tension is a barrier to peace. Instead, you observe the shivering of your own muscles, as if it were the rustling of dry leaves in the courtyard. You practice the art of breathing into the chill. As the sun dips below the horizon, the temple grounds dissolve into a monochromatic world of ink and silver. The moss on the stone lanterns, once a vibrant emerald, is now turning brittle under a coat of evening frost. The silence here is not empty. It is a dense, textured presence. It is the sound of the cedar wood contracting in the deep freeze. It is the distant, rhythmic pulse of the Pacific Ocean hitting the cliffs below. You pull your arms into your sleeves, feeling the rough texture of the fabric against your forearms. This is the first lesson of the winter, the recognition of the void. Without the padding of soft materials, without the distraction of comfort, you are forced to encounter the world as it truly is, sharp, cold, infinite. You stand still, a solitary figure in the deepening blue, waiting for the first star to pierce the veil of the Kamakura sky. The night settles into the marrow of the temple, and you move into the dim sanctuary of your sleeping quarters. To survive the nights when the water freezes in the stone basins of Japan, you turn to a humble miracle of craftsmanship, the Kamiko. This is your second skin, a robe made entirely of heavy, handmade Japanese paper. Take a moment to hear the sound as you lift the garment from its wooden chest. It does not fold like silk. It rustles with a dry, papery whisper, a sound like autumn wind moving through a field of dead grass. This paper is made from the inner bark of the mulberry tree, beaten and soaked and pressed into sheets of remarkable strength. To make it a fortress against the wind, it has been treated with kakishibu, the fermented juice of green persimmons. The tannin has turned the paper a deep earthy brown, making it stiff, waterproof, and surprisingly resilient. As you slide your arms into the sleeves, the Kamiko crackles and resists, finding its shape around your frame. It is an organic architecture. It does not rely on thickness for warmth. but on its ability to trap a thin layer of air between the paper and your linen undergarment. This captured air is warmed by your life force, creating a private microclimate that exists only for you. The scent of the persimmon tannin rises in the cool air, a sharp, vinegary, and leathery aroma that speaks of the earth and the passage of time. In the Zen tradition, the Kamiko is a symbol of the fragile nature of our existence. We are like paper, vulnerable to the flame, susceptible to the rain, and yet, when treated with discipline and folded with care, we can endure the harshest of winters. You feel the weightless warmth settling over your shoulders. The stiffness of the paper begins to soften as it absorbs the heat of your body. Outside, the first flakes of snow begin to fall, landing without a sound upon the thatched roof. Inside, you sit upon the tatami mat, the woven straw providing a subtle, grassy scent to the room. You are wrapped in a cocoon of mulberry bark and persimmon juice, a testament to the wisdom of the Japanese forest. The world may be freezing, but within the rustle of your paper robe, there is a quiet, steady flame of life that refuses to be extinguished. Dawn arrives in the mountains of Japan, not with a burst of light, but with a slow, pale expansion of the gray. You step out from the temple gates to begin the morning samu, the ritual of physical labor that is inseparable from the path of enlightenment. There are no socks upon your feet. You wear only simple sandals made of braided rice straw, lashed to your ankles with thin hemp cords. Your first step onto the path is a shock of absolute clarity. The earth is no longer soil. It has become a dark mineral slab, frozen so deeply that it rings like iron under your feet. The frost has pushed up tiny towers of ice from the mud, the frost pillars, and as you walk, they shatter beneath your weight with a sound like breaking glass. The sensation is a sharp, biting sting that travels from your soles up to your knees, a direct communication from the planet to your nervous system. You do not recoil from the pain. You use it to anchor your mind to the present moment. In the practice of kinhin, or walking meditation, every movement is deliberate. You feel the rough texture of the straw sandals against your skin. You feel the way the paper of your Kamiko sleeves brushes against your sides. The cold is a teacher of focus. When the air is this sharp, the mind cannot afford to wander into the past or the future. It must stay here, in the frost, in the breath, in the rhythm of the stride. You head toward the mountain stream to gather the water for the morning tea. The forest is a cathedral of white. The bamboo stalks lean under the weight of the new snow, occasionally snapping back with a sudden, muffled thud as their burden falls. You find the stream, its edges rimmed with jagged, translucent ice. Beneath the ice, the water still flows, a dark and persistent thread of life that never stops, no matter how low the temperature drops. You break a hole in the ice with a stone. The sound of the crack echoes through the silent woods. As you dip your wooden bucket into the liquid, the coldness of the water is so intense it feels like fire. This is the essence of the medieval Japanese winter, the constant friction between the freezing world and the warmth of the living spirit. You carry the heavy buckets back toward the temple, your muscles singing with the effort, your breath rising in steady, white plumes. You are no longer a stranger to the cold. You are a part of it, moving with the grace of the wind and the endurance of the stone. As you return from the frozen mountain trails, you retreat to the heart of the temple, a small wooden chamber where the Irori is set. This is the traditional sunken hearth, a square cut into the floorboards and lined with a deep bed of fine grey ash. In the 13th century, this humble pit is the sun around which all life revolves. It is the only source of heat in a world made of ice. You kneel by the edge, and reach for the charcoal you burned and buried during the autumn months. These are heavy pieces of oak and beech, hardened by fire until they ring like stone. As you place a new ember upon them, the charcoal begins to glow with a fierce, internal crimson. There is a soft, rhythmic crackle, a sound that signals the beginning of comfort. Above the hearth, hanging from the blackened rafters, is the jizaikagi. This is the heavy, adjustable hook that holds the iron kettle over the heat. The wooden crossbar used to adjust its height is carved in the shape of a fish. In the Zen tradition, the fish is a symbol of eternal wakefulness, for even in sleep, its eyes remain open. You look up at the wooden fish, its scales smoothed by decades of rising smoke, and you are reminded that the flame of your own awareness must never go out. The heat from the charcoal begins to radiate outward, passing through the layers of your Kamiko paper robe. It is a dry, penetrating warmth. As you sit before the hearth, you feel a profound duality. Your front is bathed in the shimmering glow of the fire, while your back remains gripped by the biting draft of the Kamakura mountains. This tension between the heat and the cold defines your physical existence. It keeps you present. You take the iron tongs and gently rearrange the embers. A tiny flurry of sparks rises into the darkness of the ceiling, vanishing like stars. There is a scent in the air, the smell of ancient wood turning into light, a fragrance of earth and time. The fire does not roar, it smolders with an immovable intent, much like the mind in deep meditation. As the room begins to hold the warmth, the tension in your shoulders finally dissolves. The Irori is more than a fireplace. It is a sanctuary where the spirit is forged and the body is allowed to remember the kindness of the sun. External heat can only do so much. To endure the depths of the Japanese winter, you must ignite the fire within your own belly. In the quiet kitchen of the temple, the kuri, you prepare the simple elements of the morning meal. The protagonist of today's nourishment is the daikon, the great white radish of Japan. You lift the vegetable from the earthen floor. It is heavy, cold, and solid, its skin as white as the snow outside. You take an iron knife and slice through the crisp flesh. The sound is a sharp, watery snap. These radishes have spent the autumn absorbing the energy of the soil and the late summer sun, and now they are ready to return that energy to you. In a large iron pot, the daikon rounds simmer alongside a scoop of dark, fermented miso. This paste, brought to these islands by Zen monks from across the sea, is the lifeblood of the monastery. It is rich, salty, and thick with the scent of fermented soybeans. As the pot begins to boil, a heavy cloud of steam rises, filling the kitchen with an earthy, savory aroma that cuts through the mountain chill. You serve yourself a single wooden bowl of the steaming broth. The first sip is a revelation. The salt of the miso stings your tongue and awakens your senses, while the heat of the liquid travels down your throat like a flowing ribbon of light. Then, you bite into the daikon. It has become tender, translucent, and saturated with the boiling soup. It releases a burst of stored heat that spreads instantly to your stomach and out toward your frozen fingertips. This is the internal armor of the monk. It is not a feast of indulgence, but a ritual of survival. As the warmth fills your core, you feel a renewed sense of vitality. The starch of the root and the protein of the bean become a part of your own blood. You finish every drop, rinsing the bowl with a splash of hot water so that not a single grain is wasted. Standing in the steam-filled kitchen, you feel the eternal sun rising within you. The cold outside has not changed, but you have become a vessel of heat, capable of facing the winter with a belly full of the earth's quiet strength. Following the meal, You return to the hearth for the final ritual of the morning. In the 13th century, tea is not a common beverage. It is a sacred medicine introduced by the great master Asai to keep the mind sharp and the heart steady. You listen to the iron kettle, the tetsubin, as it hangs over the dying embers. As the water nears the boiling point, the sound begins to change. It starts as a low murmur, then grows into a steady, whistling hum. This is what the Zen masters call the Song of the Pine, for it sounds exactly like a distant wind moving through a forest of ancient needles. It is a sound of pure resonance, a vibration that clears the clutter from the mind. You take a small ceramic bowl of dark seto ware and place a measured scoop of powdered green tea into its depths. This is the matcha, the essence of the tea leaf, ground into a fine dust between heavy stones. You pour the boiling water over the powder, and immediately the room is filled with a vibrant, grassy fragrance, the scent of a spring meadow hidden in the heart of a frozen world. With a bamboo whisk, you begin to stir the liquid. The sound is a rapid, rhythmic brushing against the ceramic walls. A fine emerald froth begins to rise, shimmering in the dim light of the temple. You lift the bowl with both hands, feeling the heat of the fired clay seeping into your palms. The first taste is intensely bitter. It is a shock to the system, a cold slap of clarity that dispels the last lingering fog of sleep. But beneath the bitterness, there is a lingering sweetness and a surge of caffeine that sharpens your focus until you can hear the individual snowflakes landing on the roof. Tea and Zen are of one flavor. Both require you to be fully present, to accept the bitterness along with the warmth. As you finish the bowl, the world feels transparent. The biting wind of Kamakura is no longer a threat. It is merely a movement in the great dance of existence. You sit in the silence, the taste of the mountains still upon your tongue, ready to move into the deep meditation of the day with a mind as clear as the winter sky. As the evening chill deepens, you sit before your low wooden desk to begin the sacred task of copying the sutras. In the 13th century, this is not merely the recording of information, it is a battle of will against the elements. The stone inkwell, the suzuri, has become a block of frozen mineral. The small amount of water you poured into it has already begun to glaze over with a thin, translucent sheet of ice. You lean forward and breathe upon the stone. Your warm, white breath mists the black surface, momentarily melting the frost. You take the stick of ink, made from the soot of ancient pines and bound with hide glue. As you begin to rub the ink against the stone, the sound is a dry, rhythmic scratching, like the sound of a small creature burrowing through the frozen earth. This is a meditative act. To rush is to ruin the ink. To move too slowly is to allow it to freeze once more. Slowly, the dark, glossy liquid begins to form. The scent rises to meet you, a deep, resinous aroma of burnt wood and forest earth. It is a fragrance that has lingered in the temples of Japan for centuries, the smell of concentrated thought. You take up your brush, its tip made of fine rabbit hair, stiffened by the cold. You dip it into the ink, feeling the resistance of the thickening liquid. You begin to write upon the yellowed scrolls of handmade paper. Each stroke is a commitment. The ink is so cold that it sometimes crystallizes as it hits the paper, creating a shimmering, frosted texture to the sacred characters. This is the art of shodo, where the brush becomes an extension of your own bone and marrow. Your fingers are numb, tucked occasionally into the folds of your paper Kamiko for a moment of warmth, yet your hand remains steady. The characters appear on the page, dark and bold against the pale background. In this silence, The only sounds are the whistling of the wind through the eaves and the soft, repetitive friction of the brush. There is a profound peace in this labor. You are not just writing words, you are weaving a tapestry of light in the heart of the darkness. By the time you finish the final line, the ink in the stone has turned back to solid ice. You clean your brush with care and look upon the living words, drying in the frigid air, a testament to a spirit that refuses to be silenced by the frost. The hour of the ox arrives, the deepest part of the night. You move to the zendo, the meditation hall, to begin the practice of zazen. The hall is a long, open structure designed to allow the air of the mountains to circulate freely. There are no walls to shield you from the Kamakura winter, only the heavy pillars and the thatched roof. You take your place upon the tatami, crossing your legs into the lotus position. Your Kamiko paper robe rustles as you settle into the posture. You straighten your spine until it is a vertical line connecting the frozen earth to the infinite sky. You rest your hands in your lap, forming the cosmic mudra. Your eyes remain half open, gazing at the floor a few feet in front of you. The cold here is absolute. It is a physical weight that presses against your skin, searching for any gap in your linen and paper defenses. Your breath emerges as a thick, white cloud, drifting slowly into the shadows before vanishing. In the Zen tradition, you do not fight the cold, you become the cold. You observe the sensation of the icy air entering your lungs, the way it sharpens your internal landscape. As the minutes turn into hours, the boundary between your body and the hall begins to dissolve. You are no longer a person sitting in a room. You are a point of awareness in a great white void. The pain in your legs and the stinging of the air on your ears become distant, like the sound of a waterfall in a neighboring valley. This is the state of Mushin, the empty mind. Occasionally, the silence is broken by the sharp crack of the keisaku, the wooden stick used by the monitor to strike the shoulders of those who drift into sleep. The sound echoes through the hall like a thunderclap, a sudden reminder of the razor edge of the present moment. You feel the heat of your own life force gathering at your center, a tiny, glowing coal in a universe of ice. You sit as still as a stone Buddha while the snow begins to drift through the open doorways, dusting the floor with a fine, silver powder. In this stillness, you find the secret of the winter, that the deepest peace is found not in the avoidance of suffering, but in the center of it. Before the first light of dawn can touch the peaks of the mountains, it is time to wake the world. You walk through the snow to the bell tower, where the great bronze boncho hangs. The bell is a massive work of art, cast from copper and tin, its surface covered in rows of sacred bosses that represent the hair of the Buddha. You take hold of the heavy wooden striking beam, the shumoku, which is suspended from the rafters by thick hemp ropes. The ropes are stiff with frost, and the wood of the beam is cold enough to burn the skin. You pull the beam back, feeling the immense weight of the timber. You pause, drawing in a long, freezing breath, synchronizing your spirit with the metal. You release the beam. The impact is a deep, earth-shaking thrum. The sound does not just hit your ears. It vibrates through your bones and travels through the soles of your feet into the ground. In the clear, dry air of the Japanese winter, the sound carries for miles, rolling down the valleys and out toward the sea. This is the voice of the temple, a call to mindfulness that cuts through the fog of sleep and the distractions of the ego. You listen to the resonance. The sound has 3 stages. First, the powerful, percussive strike that shatters the silence. Then, the long, lingering hum that ripples through the atmosphere like a stone thrown into a still pond. Finally, the vanishing echo, the point where the sound becomes so fine it disappears into the void. This final stage is the most important, for it represents the transition from the world of form to the world of emptiness. As the sound fades, you see the sky beginning to turn a pale, bruised purple. The mountains of Kamakura emerge from the darkness, their ridgelines sharp and white against the horizon. The bell has cleared the air, leaving behind a silence that is deeper and more profound than before. You strike the bell again, and then once more, a triple salutation to the dawning day. Each strike is a reminder that every moment is a new beginning, a fresh chance to seek Satori in the heart of the frozen world. You stand in the shadow of the great bronze bell, feeling the lingering vibration in your own chest, a silent echo of the infinite. In the deepest hours of the Kamakura night, the cold becomes a living thing. It crawls across the wooden floorboards like a silent predator, seeking any gap in your paper robes. As you prepare for sleep, you turn to a small but profound comfort brought to the islands of Japan by the monks of the Song dynasty. It is the yutenpo, a humble oval vessel forged from bronze or tin. Listen to the sound of the water as you pour it into the metal opening. It is a heavy, rhythmic splashing, the steam rising in a sudden cloud that momentarily softens the harsh lines of your room. This water, heated over the dying embers of the hearth, carries the last of the day's fire within it. You screw the cap tight, feeling the intense heat of the metal through your palms. It is a heat so fierce it would sear the skin, yet it is the most precious thing you own. You wrap the yutanpo in several layers of old, coarse linen. The heat is tempered now, becoming a slow, radiating glow rather than a sharp burn. You slide it beneath the covers at the foot of your bed. As your frozen feet encounter the warmth, a wave of relief travels through your entire body. The muscles of your calves and thighs, which have been tight with tension since the sun went down, finally begin to surrender. There is a deep mercy in this localized heat. In the Zen path, we are taught that the body is but a temporary vessel, yet we must care for it as we would a sacred tool. The yutampo is a reminder of human compassion. It is a small sun that you can hold against your bones. As you lie in the darkness, you hear the faint, metallic click of the vessel as it contracts in the cooling air. It is the sound of the night settling in. You feel the weight of the water against your ankles, a steady and comforting presence that keeps the darkness at bay. In a world of ice and stone, this small gift of heat is a promise that you will endure until the dawn. As you lie still, your world is defined by a single translucent boundary, the shoji. This is the sliding door made of a delicate wooden lattice and thick, handmade mulberry paper. In the 13th century, this is all that stands between your life and the lethal cold of the mountain night. The shoji does something miraculous with the light. Tonight, the moon is full, and its rays reflect off the deep snow outside, turning the world into a landscape of silver and ash. This light does not enter the room directly. It is filtered through the fibers of the paper, becoming a soft, milky glow that fills the space. This is the beauty of shadows, a uniquely Japanese aesthetic where the absence of light is as important as the light itself. You watch the shadows play upon the paper surface. The ancient pine tree in the garden casts a long, jagged silhouette that shifts and sways with the wind. The shadow moves like a living creature, a silent guardian of the night. The paper itself has a texture, a subtle grain of mulberry fibers that creates a mist-like quality in the air. There is a profound silence in this visual landscape. The shoji filters the world, stripping away the harshness and leaving only the essence. You feel the fragility of the paper. It is so thin that a single finger could pierce it, yet it is strong enough to hold back the wind. It represents the veil between the self and the universe. On the other side is the infinite cold and the vast, unfeeling stars. On this side is the warmth of your breath and the scent of the straw mats. You realize that you are not hidden from the world, but rather you are a part of its shifting patterns. The moon, the snow, the tree, and the paper are all interconnected in a single, silent dance. As you watch the shadows fade and deepen, your mind becomes as clear and quiet as the paper screen itself. The world is reduced to this play of silver and grey, a dream within a dream, held in place by the strength of a few sheets of mulberry bark. Your rest is supported by the very bones of the earth. In this age, there are no soft quilts of cotton, no down-filled pillows. Your bed is the kusa no shitone, a traditional mat woven from thick, dried grasses and layered upon the tatami. Beneath your body, you feel the firm, unyielding support of the rice straw. It does not sink like the beds of the future. It holds you with a grounding force that connects you to the soil of Japan. Within your sleeping bag of coarse fabric, you have stuffed a wealth of ashinoa, the fluffy white seed heads of the river reeds gathered during the autumn. As you move, the reeds rustle with a sound like 1,000 tiny sighs. It is a dry, organic sound that speaks of the riverbanks and the summer sun. These reed heads are surprisingly light and trap the heat of your body with remarkable efficiency. The scent rises from the bedding, a fragrance of sun-dried hay, of earth, and of the wild places along the water's edge. It is a scent that brings back memories of the harvest, of the warmth of the sun that has long since vanished from the sky. You pull the heavy fabric up to your chin. The straw beneath you and the reeds around you create a cocoon of natural fibers. This is the survival of the monk, to use the remnants of the living world to sustain your own life through the dead of winter. There is a primal security in this arrangement. You are wrapped in the skin of the field and the heart of the river. Outside, you hear the sudden, heavy thud of snow falling from a cedar branch, a sound that emphasizes the profound stillness of the mountain. But inside your cocoon, the heat of your own blood is held fast by the straw. You feel yourself sinking, not into a mattress, but into the history of the land itself. The rustling of the reeds becomes the sound of the wind in your dreams. You are a seed buried deep in the earth, waiting in the warmth of the soil for the distant call of spring. In this bed of grass, you find a peace that no luxury could ever provide. Long before the sun dares to touch the jagged peaks of the mountains, you are already standing in the courtyard. The air of the Japanese dawn is a wall of ice, yet you do not hesitate. You take up the take-hoki, the traditional broom made of dried bamboo twigs, bound tightly to a long wooden handle. In the Zen path, this is the beginning of Samu, the ritual of physical labor where the act of cleaning becomes a form of moving meditation. Listen to the sound of the first sweep. Swish, swish. It is a dry, crisp sound that cuts through the heavy silence of the morning. You are not merely clearing the snow from the stone path. You are sweeping the clutter from your own mind. The bamboo twigs are stiff and unyielding, much like the winter itself. Yet as you move, they find a rhythm. You swing the broom with the full weight of your body, your breath rising in steady, rhythmic plumes of white mist. Within the layers of your Kamiko paper robe, a new kind of warmth begins to bloom. This is not the heat of the fire, but the heat of life. As your muscles work against the resistance of the snow, your blood begins to sing in your veins. The friction of the movement generates a glow that radiates from your core to your fingertips. You feel the weight of the snow upon the broom, the way it resists and then finally yields, flying into the air like a cloud of silver dust. In this moment, there is no distinction between the broom, the snow, and the monk. There is only the action. You watch your footprints appearing on the cleared stone, a temporary record of your presence in this frozen world. The act of labor is a sacred gift. It is the way we prove our existence to the earth. By the time the courtyard is clean, your body is humming with energy, and your spirit is as clear as the polished stones beneath your feet. The winter is no longer a prison. It is a workshop for the soul. The transition from the depths of winter to the first hint of spring does not happen with a roar, but with a whisper. You sit on the edge of the veranda, looking toward the corner of the garden where a single, ancient plum tree stands. For months, it has looked like a skeletal remain, its black branches frozen in a gesture of silent endurance. But today, something has shifted in the light. The sun is no longer a pale, distant disk. It has regained a subtle, golden weight. You hear a sound that has been absent for a long time, the sound of dripping water. High on the thatched roof, the ice is beginning to lose its grip. Drip, drop, drip. Each drop is a tiny bell tolling the end of the iron frost. The water falls onto the frozen moss below, boring small, dark holes into the white crust of the snow. You walk toward the plum tree and lean in close. There, on the underside of a dark twig, you see it, a single bud, no larger than a grain of rice, swelling with a hidden, defiant energy. It is a pale, translucent pink, a color that seems impossible in a world of gray and white. This is the Zen concept of karasansui turning into life, the realization that even in the heart of the most brutal winter, the spring is already dreaming. The scent of the air is changing. The sharp, metallic bite of the ice is being replaced by the smell of damp earth and waking wood. It is a heavy, fertile fragrance that speaks of the deep roots stirring beneath the frost. You realize that the endurance of the winter was not in vain. The cold was a necessary silence, a period of contraction that allowed the tree and your own spirit to gather the strength required for the coming bloom. You breathe in the scent of the thawing earth, feeling a quiet joy rising in your chest. The cycle is complete. The void is beginning to fill with the color of hope. The night returns, but it is a softer night. You lie down for the final time in this chronicle, wrapped in your robes of paper and linen, supported by the grass and the reeds. The mountains of Japan are silent, held in a peaceful embrace that stretches from the 13th century into the infinite. You reflect on the journey through the frost. You have learned the language of the wind, the strength of the paper, and the mercy of the flame. You have discovered that warmth is not something we merely find. It is something we cultivate through discipline, through tea, and through the steady practice of zazen. The winter has stripped away everything that was unnecessary, leaving behind only the essential truth of your own being. Your consciousness begins to drift, moving like the smoke from the dying embers of the Irori. The boundaries of your room, the temple, and the city of Kamakura begin to dissolve. You are no longer a monk in a cold room. You are the moonlight on the snow, the resonance of the bell, and the secret life within the plum bud. Everything is interconnected, a single, vast tapestry of existence woven together by the breath. This is the great dream of the Zen path, the realization that there is no separation between the self and the universe. The cold was never your enemy. It was the stone upon which you sharpened your spirit. As you close your eyes, the last sound you hear is the distant, rhythmic pulse of the ocean, a mother's heartbeat for a world at rest. The light of the moon through the shoji fades into a gentle, velvet darkness. You are safe. You are complete. You are a part of the eternal silence of the mountain. Let the warmth of your own heart carry you into the deep, healing waters of sleep. The journey is over, and the dream of Kamakura is now your own. Sleep now. Sleep in the peace of the great white void.